The Breaking Storm. The grand observation deck of the Krillian flagship Eternal Dominance offered a panoramic view of the small blue planet rotating slowly beneath them. Admiral Vexra, Supreme Commander of the Krillian Imperium's expansion fleet, regarded Earth with 6 compound eyes that reflected contempt rather than wonder. Another primitive world. Vexra chittered, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among his species. Hardly worth the fuel we expended reaching this system. The massive insectoid shifted his armored carapace and turned toward the only other occupant on the observation deck. Elder Nylon, small even for a lorekeeper of the Krillian Imperium, stood motionless, his translucent exoskeleton glowing with faint bioluminescence, a sign of deep concern among his caste. "I urge caution, Admiral," Nylon said, his voice melodic yet troubled. "Our preliminary scans show anomalies in this species' development pattern. They have progressed from primitive flight to rudimentary space exploration in less than a single Krillian lifetime." Vexra waved a clawed appendage dismissively. "All the more reason to subjugate them now, before they become a nuisance. The Imperium has incorporated thousands of species over 20 millennia. These humans will be no different." Nylon's bioluminescence pulsed faster. "That is precisely my concern. They are different. Their history is marked by nearly constant warfare, yet they've avoided self-extinction. They developed technologies specifically for conflict at an alarming rate, then repurposed them for peaceful applications. I have studied their transmissions. They possess thousands of fictional scenarios about alien invasions. They have been preparing for us, Admiral, without even knowing we exist." "Imaginative primitives remain primitives," Vexra responded, turning back to the view screen. "Prepare the contact protocols. Standard subjugation package. Admiral, please. The Consensus Council recommends observation for at least one local planetary cycle before." "The Consensus Council is not tasked with expanding the Imperium's dominion," Vexra interrupted. "I am. This discussion is concluded." As Nylon departed, his bioluminescence dimmed in resignation. The Krillian Imperium had conquered every species in its path for 20,000 years. Why would these humans be any different? Yet something troubled the Elder deeply. In all his centuries studying newly discovered civilizations, he had never encountered a species so contradictory, so simultaneously destructive and creative, warlike, and compassionate. 24 hours later, humanity received its first official contact from an alien civilization. The message appeared simultaneously on every electronic device on Earth, bypassing all security protocols as if they were non-existent. "People of Earth, your planet now falls within the domain of the Krillian Imperium. Submit to immediate integration and enjoy the benefits of our protection. Resistance will result in appropriate correction. You have one planetary rotation to prepare your leaders for integration." In the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council, chaos reigned. Representatives from every major nation argued fiercely about how to respond. "This must be an elaborate hoax," insisted the Russian delegate. "No actual alien civilization would communicate in such a manner." "The transmission originated beyond lunar orbit," countered the American representative. "Our military and civilian technologies are being manipulated by an external force with capabilities far beyond our own. This is real." In the tense discussions that followed, one voice eventually rose above the others. Dr. Eleanor Chen, lead xenolinguist at the Cambridge Institute for Extraterrestrial Studies, had been hastily brought in to analyze the message. "The phrasing suggests a hierarchical civilization with a history of successful conquest," she explained. "They're not asking for submission. They're demanding it as a formality. The question isn't whether we should submit or resist. The question is whether any response we give matters to them at all." The room fell silent as her words sank in. Whatever humanity decided, the Krillians had already determined their course of action. The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. "We must respond with a unified voice. We cannot submit to an ultimatum, but we must communicate our willingness to establish peaceful relations. Humanity's response was transmitted exactly 23 hours after the Krillian message. People of the Krillian Imperium, we welcome peaceful contact with your civilization and propose a diplomatic meeting to establish mutual understanding. Earth is an independent world with many sovereign nations. We do not accept integration under terms of subjugation, but welcome discussion as equals. Admiral Vexra received the transmission with predictable disdain. Primitives always believe they have a choice, he remarked to his bridge officers. Commence Phase 1 of the integration protocol. Within hours, the appropriate correction began. Precision strikes from orbit destroyed military installations around the globe. Communications networks were systematically disabled. Power grids collapsed across continents. In less than a day, human civilization was thrown into chaos. But the Krillians had miscalculated. Colonel Elena Reyes stood amidst the ruins of what had once been the Pentagon, now organizing surviving military personnel into a new command structure. As the highest-ranking officer still alive in the region, she had taken charge without hesitation. They targeted obvious military installations, but missed our distributed networks and backup systems, she told the assembled officers. They know our technology, but not how we think. That's our advantage. Across the Atlantic, Dr. Sanjay Patel worked feverishly in the underground facility beneath Oxford University. As the lead researcher in advanced materials science, he had been whisked away to safety moments before the attack began. The debris from their weapons contains elements we've never seen before, he explained to his team. But the underlying principles, we can work with this. We can understand it. While the Krillian fleet established orbital dominance, landing parties of mechanized troops secured strategic locations around the planet. Admiral Vexra observed the proceedings with satisfaction. Phase 1 had proceeded with typical efficiency. Phase 2, direct governance installation, would begin within days. Yet something troubled him. The resistance was unusual. Previous species had either surrendered immediately or launched desperate, uncoordinated counterattacks. These humans were doing neither. They were withdrawing, adapting, communicating despite the communications blackout. They were being methodical. Increase surveillance on population centers, Vexra ordered. I want to know what they're planning. 6 months into the occupation, Elder Nylon requested an audience with the Admiral. His bioluminescence was pulsing rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. The humans are not behaving according to standard subjugation patterns, Nylon reported. They are not fighting to reclaim territory. They're fighting to acquire our technology. Vexra dismissed the concern. Primitive species always attempt to secure advanced technology. It never helps them. They're not just taking it, Nylon insisted. They're understanding it. 3 of our ground units have been ambushed with weapons modified from our own designs. Crude, yes, but functional. No species has ever reverse-engineered Krillian technology this quickly. Before Vexra could respond, the bridge communications officer interrupted. Admiral, we've detected an anomalous energy signature near what remains of their northern polar research facility. Vexra turned his attention to the display. Analyze and report. It appears to be. Sir, it resembles our quantum communications array, but the configuration is unlike anything in our databases. Vexra's compound eyes narrowed. Impossible. Destroy the facility immediately. But the order came too late. Across the planet, resistance cells activated simultaneously. The attack pattern was unlike anything the Krillian occupation forces had anticipated, not focused on reclaiming territory, but on capturing specific technological components. In her hidden command center, Colonel Rice watched the operation unfold. Phase 1 complete, she announced to her staff. All teams have secured their objectives. Dr. Patel nodded in satisfaction. If my calculations are correct, we now have everything we need for full prototype testing. How soon? Rice asked. 2 weeks, Patel replied. Maybe less if the quantum calibration holds. Rice turned to her communications officer. Send the message to all resistance cells worldwide. Operation Thunderbolt commences in 2 weeks. As the message went out through the captured and modified Krillian quantum network, a new sense of purpose surged through the human resistance. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a unified plan, and a weapon the Krillians wouldn't see coming. Turning the tide. Admiral Vexra stared at the holographic display, mandibles clicking in agitation. For the third time in as many days, a Krillian command post had gone completely silent. The pattern was too consistent to be coincidence, yet the method remained mysterious. One moment, the outpost reported normal operations. The next, complete communication failure. Scans detected no weapon signatures at any of the locations, reported his tactical officer. No radiation, no kinetic impacts, no chemical agents. That is impossible, Vexra hissed. Send recovery teams with full biohazard protocols. Elder Naelan observed silently from the edge of the command center, his bioluminescence pulsing in a pattern that suggested deep concern, and perhaps a hint of vindication. He had warned of humanity's adaptability, but even he hadn't anticipated such rapid evolution in their resistance strategies. The recovery team's report arrived 12 hours later, and its contents sent ripples of disquiet through the command staff. The outposts had not been destroyed. The Krillian personnel had not been killed. They had simply shut down. Every Krillian at each outpost had fallen into a catatonic state, their neural functions severely disrupted but their bodies otherwise unharmed. Biological warfare, Vexra concluded, turning accusingly toward Naelan. Your precious humans have violated galactic conventions. Naelan's bioluminescence flickered thoughtfully. I don't believe so, Admiral. The recovery team found no biological agents, no toxins. Something else affected our personnel, something we've never encountered before. At that moment, the ship's sensors detected a massive energy spike from the planet below. A transmission followed immediately, broadcasting on all Krillian frequencies. Attention Krillian forces. This is Colonel Elena Reyes of the United Earth Resistance. You have witnessed a demonstration of our new defensive capability. We call it Project Resonance. It specifically targets Krillian neural patterns without causing permanent harm. We now control 17 of your ground bases and have the capability to expand this effect to orbital installations. Vexra's compound eyes widened in disbelief as the transmission continued. We propose terms. Withdraw all Krillian forces from Earth's orbit and surface. Acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and independence. In return, we will not share this technology with other species resisting Krillian expansion. You have 24 hours to begin withdrawal. Silence fell over the command center. Vexra turned to his neural warfare specialist. Explain this. How could primitives develop technology that targets our neural patterns? The specialist's carapace trembled slightly. Unknown, Admiral. Our neural encryption should be impenetrable. These humans, they've somehow mapped our consciousness structure. Elder Naelan stepped forward, his translucent form now glowing steadily. They study your fallen soldiers, Admiral. While you saw them collecting our technology, they were studying us, our biology, our neural architecture. They didn't develop a weapon. They developed an understanding of how we function. Deep in the reconfigured underground facility that had once been Oxford University's physics department, Dr. Sanjay Patel monitored the quantum resonance field with cautious optimism. Beside him, neurobiologist Dr. Maya Takahashi analyzed the incoming data. The field is holding stable at 18 sites now, Patel reported. Power consumption is within acceptable parameters. Takahashi nodded. Neural disruption is precisely as calculated, incapacitating but non-lethal. They'll recover fully once removed from the field. Colonel Rice studied the tactical display showing Krillian positions worldwide. They're scrambling. Look at their deployment pattern. They're pulling back from population centers, consolidating around their landing ships. They don't understand how we're doing it, Patel said. That's our advantage. They think it's a weapon they can defend against, not a fundamental incompatibility between their neural architecture and the quantum field we've generated. Reyes nodded grimly. Let's hope it's enough to convince them withdrawal is their best option. If not, she left the thought unfinished. Everyone in the room understood the stakes. Humanity had one chance to turn the tide. If the Krillians chose to escalate instead of withdraw, Earth had no defense against orbital bombardment. Aboard the Eternal Dominance, Admiral Vexra faced the most difficult decision of his long military career. The tactical options were clear: withdraw as demanded or escalate to full planetary subjugation. Essentially, sterilize the surface and start over with colonization. The humans leave us no choice, he declared to his command staff. Prepare the extinction protocols. Elder Nalon's bioluminescence flared with alarm. Admiral, I must formally protest this action. The Consensus Council has not authorized extinction-level response. The humans have developed technology that directly threatens Krillian neural security. Vexra countered. The threat assessment qualifies for maximum response. Then let me negotiate, Nalon pleaded. At least discover how they developed this technology. We need to understand it before we destroy them, or we risk facing it again from other species. Vexra paused, compound eyes narrowing. The elder had a point. If humans had shared this technology with other subjugated worlds, very well. You have 12 hours to extract the information we need. Then I proceed as planned. On Earth, the Resistance leadership received the request for parley with cautious optimism. It's a stalling tactic, warned Colonel Reyes. They're planning something big. Dr. Petel frowned at the sensor readings. Our orbital sensors confirm their fleet is repositioning. They're moving heavy weapons platforms into bombardment formation. Then we need to accelerate our timetable, Reyes decided. Begin Phase 3 immediately. While Elder Nalon prepared for negotiations, believing he had bought precious time, humanity launched its final gambit. The quantum resonance field that had incapacitated Krillian ground forces had been merely a demonstration, a proof of concept. The true weapon was far more sophisticated. Across the planet, hidden installations activated simultaneously, projecting a modified quantum field into orbit. Unlike the ground-based version, this field didn't target Krillian neural patterns directly. Instead, it created a cascading disruption in their quantum communications network, the nervous system of their entire military operation. Aboard the Eternal Dominance, chaos erupted as systems failed in rapid succession. Weapon targeting, navigation, life support, all flickered and destabilized. The mighty flagship, pride of the Krillian fleet, drifted powerless. Admiral Vexra, for the first time in his illustrious career, felt fear. What is happening? He demanded, but his officers had no answers. Elder Nalon observed the confusion with growing realization. They've weaponized our own quantum network against us. Ingenious. A new transmission reached the crippled flagship, audio only. This is Dr. Sanjay Patil of the United Earth Resistance. Your ships are experiencing a cascading quantum entanglement disruption. It is temporary and non-destructive, but we can maintain it indefinitely. We can also modify it to target life support systems specifically if necessary. Your choices have narrowed considerably, Admiral Vexra. Withdraw or be stranded in Earth orbit permanently. In that moment, facing the impossible reality that a primitive species had not only resisted Krillian subjugation, but effectively neutralized their technological advantage, Admiral Vexra made the only decision possible. Prepare withdrawal protocols, he ordered, his voice subdued. All ships, all ground forces. Elder Nalon's bioluminescence pulsed with complex emotions, relief, vindication, and profound respect for the species he had tried to protect. Admiral, with your permission, I would like to remain as diplomatic liaison. These humans, they deserve direct representation in the Consensus Council after what they've achieved. Vexra regarded the elder with new understanding. Granted, perhaps there is wisdom in the old ways after all. As the Krillian fleet limped away from Earth, Humanity celebrated its hard-won victory, but Colonel Rice and Dr. Peddle knew their work was just beginning. "They'll be back," Rice said, watching the ships disappear into the darkness of space. "Not as conquerors next time, but they'll be back." Patel nodded thoughtfully. "And we'll be ready, not just to defend ourselves, but to meet them as equals." Perhaps that was always the only path forward. In the silent void of space, Elder Nylon composed his report to the Consensus Council. The humans had accomplished what no other species had in 20 millennia of Krillian expansion. They had forced the Imperium to retreat and reconsider its approach to galactic civilization. The stars trembled with new possibility. Humanity had taken its first steps onto a much larger stage, bringing with them their unique combination of tenacity, ingenuity, and adaptability. The galaxy would never be the same.